And again, we don't want you to fall into the traditional personal finance trap and just say, oh, by savings, they mean a savings account in a bank. No, by savings, we just mean the difference between what's coming in and going out. Whatever that delta is, that's what we're going to plan on in the first level of financial wealth building. Is we're going to start planning our system around protecting that money and then ultimately leveraging that money for investments. So we have income, we have savings. We're trying to drive the income up, create a wider base, maintain our expense and lifestyle, or at least not let it increase at the same proportion as our income, which is going to give us a good solid savings rate.
How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tactical Empire podcast. And we're actually wrapping up our 3-day personal pyramid of wealth challenge. So for those of you that have joined us for the 3 days, we appreciate it. Those of you that are chiming in to this episode, we're going to give a quick little roundup summary of what we've gone over without super high detail over the first 2 days. And then ultimately bring it full circle and tell you guys why this is the system that works and why it's important for you to implement it in your life in order to build the wealth and life of your dreams. So over the past 3 days, basically the summary is this. Traditional personal finance has people use financial tools and vehicles as standalone places to have their money. Regardless of what the tool is, regardless of what their goals are, all of these things are their own individual silos. They are not working in unison. People make income, it flows into one account, and then it distributes to all these other places. And traditional personal finance says one product for one goal. That is not what we believe in here. We believe in that your entire personal finance wealth building system should be just that. It should be an all-inclusive system where things are stacking on top of one another and they are complementing one another. They are feeding into one another. And that's why we use a pyramid as a visual representation. So I know if you're not in the 3-day course, you don't see the image, but if you could draw this in your head, it's a pyramid. The foundation of the pyramid is your income. If you do not have a very clear plan on how you can flow more money into your life via active income, less active income, and passive income, you need to spend a lot of time focusing on income because this is the driving factor to your wealth. All other things created equal, person A that makes $100,000 and person B that makes $50,000, if they do the same thing, person A will win because they have the higher income. Now, if person A spends more than $100,000, they will not beat person B if person B spends $40,000 on a $50,000 a year income. Okay, that's why the second layer to this pyramid is savings. And again, we don't want you to fall into the traditional personal finance trap and just say, oh, by savings, they mean a savings account in a bank. No, by savings, we just mean the difference between what's coming in and going out. Whatever that delta is, that's what we're going to plan on in the first level of financial wealth building. Is we're going to start planning our system around protecting that money and then ultimately leveraging that money for investments. So we have income, we have savings. We're trying to drive the income up, create a wider base, maintain our expense and lifestyle, or at least not let it increase at the same proportion as our income, which is going to give us a good solid savings rate. Okay. I know traditional personal finance says set aside 10%. We think that's way too low. You should at a minimum be setting aside 30% of every dollar that comes towards you. Ultimately getting to 50% would be ideal in a perfect world. Then we take that savings, and instead of having a standalone savings account and then taking the rest of our money and put it into investments, there's a layer there that we think is highly important. And again, I'm not giving you guys all the details today, but that is the protection layer. In the Tactical Empire, what Jeff and I believe in, this is what Jeff taught me 4.5 years ago when I first got in contact with him as my mentor, was I need to protect my capital. We do that via high early cash value life insurance policies. Today is not a crash course on that. We have other episodes and courses and resources for you to learn all about that. Reach out to us directly if you have trouble finding them. Our savings go into that. We get a guaranteed rate of interest return for the rest of our life. It cannot go below this guaranteed rate of interest that we have. And we reap in the benefits of the life insurance companies. So we have non-guaranteed dividends. So we are earning good return on our money as a foundation. That money is going to grow compounded, uninterrupted for the rest of our life. That is another principle to wealth building. You cannot interrupt your compounding. And that is an issue with traditional personal finance. Traditional personal finance has people put money places, whether it's the short, medium, or long term, and then ultimately they have to interrupt that compounding. I don't care if it's a simple 4% savings rate for your emergency fund, and then the emergency happens and you have to deplete that account and start over. The second you interrupt that 5%, 4% rate, you're starting over, you're screwed. I don't care if it's a midterm savings plan, like a 529 plan. You're saving this money, it's tied to the stock market, it's get 8 to 11% averages, which are bullshit anyways. And then your kid goes to college, and guess what? That account is depleted. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not wealth building. That is why you are all chained to having to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week without having freedom of choice in the other areas of your life. So we take our savings, we protect it in life insurance, and we let that grow, compounded, uninterrupted for as long as possible, forever, ultimately. Then we leverage life insurance policy loans for our investments. And in our investment, our philosophy is every place we put our money in our investment strategy, in our investment plan, in our investment portfolio should have cash flow associated with it. And cash flow is what it is. It is cash flowing towards us. Oh, wait, Jeff, what the hell is that? Money flowing towards us? Oh, that's income. Our investments shouldn't just appreciate in value for some future date that is labeled with this term called retirement from the government. That's a bullshit misnomer as well. We want to put our money to work in something that's going to appreciate and spit off cash for our daily use today. So the pyramid actually kind of has a hole in the side of it near the top, and that is from cash pouring out the side of the investment section, and that cash is going to go down the damn sides and filter back into the bottom. When you have your investments giving you cash flow and it flows to the bottom, that creates a wider base. So your base of your pyramid, your income becomes bigger, wider, which means maintain and don't let your expenses grow in the same proportion that your income's growing. So your savings rate is going to get wider dollar amount wise, which means you're going to build out your banking system via protection, via high early cash value life insurance, which means ultimately you can leverage more cash value life insurance policy loans to expand your investment portfolio and cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle again. And people get so concerned about what year one looks like in this entire system, but we know 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years is going to go by. And if you implement this system today, that pyramid will get big. Jeff, I just ran it for a handful of minutes, but that is basically what I talked about 1 hour the past 2 days. Take over.
Well, I mean, that's it, man. Like people just need to understand at a foundational level how to do it. There's just different levels to the education of what you're doing. Like, and we believe that financial education is like the number one thing that you can be expanding, financial education and your leadership abilities, right? And so like, but the foundational piece of it is the biggest level of understanding that people have to grasp. I just had this conversation with a person 20 minutes ago about it, and understanding that if you put your money into, like if you make $1 and you go spend $1 in a conventional world, that dollar is gone. And so the only way to recapture it is go to work again and get that dollar back. And so what we've built I mean, we didn't invent these fucking things. I mean, it's just it's a financial tool that is available to anyone and everyone, that most people don't know about. And if you use that dollar and you put that money into the system first before you take out on the back end and go spend that money, then it's in your system forever, into perpetuity. And so, I mean, grasping that side of things is very, very important. And it's hard to wrap your head around, honestly. I mean, it really is. But like, you don't even need to get out over your skis and understand that, like don't get caught up with like, I don't know how to invest in real estate, or I don't know how to buy businesses, or I don't know how to do all this other stuff. Like, if you can do the foundational principles with any income level, like, you're going to be much better off in a couple of years. And there's no way around it, truly, because you're going to have so much more access to cash. You're going to have such a larger savings account than you otherwise would have. And you're going to have the ability to start doing things that previously you didn't have the ability to do. And this goes for like you conventional investors there that want to throw your money in Fidelity or like the S&P 500. I suggest putting this into practice before you start putting your money into Fidelity. So like when I talk about spending money and it's gone, it's kind of the same thing. You're only using it one time if you're investing it in the stock market. Same thing goes for real estate. The money that I put into properties before I knew about this concept, like, is just tied up in that property, right? But if I would have taken the $50,000 down payment and put it into this foundational system first, and then taken the 50 and bought a house, now I've used that dollar twice. And like, that's the concept behind it. We're putting a cyclical rate of money together that allows you to use your dollars 2 and possibly 3 times in certain scenarios. And like, that's what normal civilians don't have access to on a regular basis. The bank uses your money 10 times. So they take your dollar and they lend it out 9 other times. And so they're making 9 revenue streams off of your one single dollar. So the best thing we can do as regular individual citizens is take our money and make it earn money 2 or 3 times for us, which then goes out and creates little worker bees for you that allow you to make money in different ways as you kind of grow your wealth. And it's not as complicated as people make it out to be. And I think most people just think it's not for them because it sounds confusing on the way in. And like, that's where they get wrapped around the axle. But if you're a good saver and you live below your means, you can truly change your life with this, and you don't need a lot of money. So it's something to implement yesterday.
Yeah, there was a lot of meat on that bone, so I'm going to try and peel off some of that there. I think you ended with a really good statement, and it was, if you're a really good saver. And another way to say that is what we say on every other podcast episode. You must be a steward of money. If you're someone that is just sitting around complaining about macroeconomics or microeconomics, for layman's terms, whatever's happening in the United States or the world, and you're saying that's why you are where you are in terms of a negative, or microeconomics, your gas stations inflating prices, your grocery stores, your restaurants charging more, all this shit, or your boss isn't giving you a raise, whatever it is, like, you're just abdicating financial responsibility for yourself, and you need to look at your own financial house, and you need to make changes. You need to make changes. Unless you are someone that's really just in a really, really, really bad spot, and you're working 3 jobs and you got 2 kids and you're a single parent, like, there's things that you can do to help your situation. Now, that's not most people listening to this podcast, so I won't harp on that. So I'm going to take it up a level. You said people, and I was that person 5 years ago, like, okay, this sounds super complicated. It sounds too good to be true, but I should have heard about it by now. So I went on, an educational search, but I think it'd be very easy for people to hear us talk about investments and real estate and buying businesses, and they get turned off because they're like, that's not relevant to me. I'm a W-2 worker. I like my job. I need my job. I got a spouse. She stay at home. I got 3 kids. I'm not leaving this job. I know I have a skill set. I'd love to start a business. I'm just not going to fucking do it. I get it. Respect. You can still implement this system because it will benefit you long term if we make it fit the right scenario for your life in the short term. And for most people, this is the biggest feedback I get when I talk about this example. 99% of people know what it feels like to buy a car. So this is the example I use for people when they can't connect the dots with investments. We want you to use your money for investments, okay? But we all drive. We all drive vehicles. So we've bought vehicles. I don't care if they're used vehicles or new vehicles. There's two ways, mainly, that 99.9% of people buy vehicles. They pay cash for the vehicle, or they finance, a la use other people's money, regardless of whose it is, and they get these payment plans, and they pay back this car over a 3, 4, 5, 6 year period. Great. I don't care which one of those you are, but let's talk about both. If you use cash to buy a vehicle, you've saved the money. Maybe you had a 4% interest rate in today's terms while you saved the $25,000. And then boom, so I don't owe anyone money. I deplete that account and I bought my car. So I have my depreciating asset, but you don't have the money. That, ladies and gentlemen, is starting over. That's why most people in this country are in a bad financial spot. So next level of financial thinking for financial security will be like, okay, I don't mind debt, or I don't mind car financing. So if I have 10, 15, 20, $25,000 in the bank, why don't I just put $3,000 down? Then I'll borrow the rest from Toyota financing, and I'll pay them. The average car payment in the country right now is $843. So let's just say $843 for the next 5 years. I don't know if that math checks out on a Toyota 4Runner, but let's just say it does for this example. And so you're going to pay money. You get the asset. You have the depreciating asset. You have a loan. You have your money in the bank, because that's going to make you sleep well at night. But over the next 5 years, you're paying $800 some to somebody else. So after 5 years, what do you have? You have your money in the bank, which isn't really growing, or maybe you used it for a vacation or another emergency. So that money may be gone, or it may be stagnant. It may have grown a little bit. But what you don't have is the $843 that you paid to Toyota financing. But you also have a depreciated asset. So how could we take back that function? If you had the money and you could put that in a life insurance policy, which in our personal pyramid of wealth is the protection layer, we take a life insurance loan, which is not your money, it's the life insurance company's money. You're going to use their money to buy the vehicle. By the way, if you have enough cash value, you could take all that money and make a cash offer on the vehicle. So you get a discounted price because you're paying for it in full. So factor that into your ROI on the money. Then I have this outstanding loan, and this is where people get hung up. Why would I borrow my own money and have a loan to myself? But they have no problem taking a loan for their mortgage, for their house, right? I'm going to take money from the life insurance company, and instead of paying Toyota financing $843 a month, I'm going to pay my life insurance company back. I'm going to be very careful on how I say that. It's not paying yourself back. It's paying back the loan from the life insurance company. My money went untouched. My cash value went untouched. But I'm going to pay down this loan as if it was a real car note from Toyota financing. $843 a month for the next 5 years. At the end of 5 years, where am I at? Yes, that 843 went to the life insurance company to pay down the loan, but my money went untouched. So my money was growing the whole time. Every dollar I paid back, I could borrow again tomorrow, and I still have the asset. So instead of starting from zero, I never went back to zero in the first place. So I could cycle this, not even talking about wealth building. I could cycle this purchasing a car every 5, 7 to 10 years. And fast forward to the age of retirement that most people think of is 65. If I started this process at 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, I don't care how old you are. By the time you get to 65, you've cycled your money and let it grow uninterrupted for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. At that point, you can now take that as tax-free income in retirement. And I use that very loosely because there's no government qualified restrictions like a 401k or traditional IRA. So I wanted to take that 5 minutes, Jeff, to explain that, because I get really good feedback on that example. But it's, again, to tell people this wasn't a high-level 3-day personal wealth building challenge. It was a personal pyramid of wealth using unconventional, non-traditional personal finance knowledge. And that is the simplest example I can give to tell people why this system is important, regardless if you want to buy businesses or buy real estate.
Yeah. And ultimately the safety and security is in the foundation of it. And like, that's why I don't want to overcomplicate it with the investment side of things. You don't even have to get sophisticated with this model. Like, I mean, one thing you said was you'll take a mortgage from your bank. Like if all you guys are Dave Ramsey acolytes out there, like you could use this with the goal in mind to pay off your house. And then you pay off your house, you eliminate your interest rate altogether, and then you make your house payment back to your life insurance policy if that's what makes you comfortable, right? And so if you were to do that, let's say you have a $400,000 house, you have to build your bank to $400,000, and then you pay off your home, and then you pay back your life insurance policy with that. But if you have a $400,000 bank, you probably have a $7 million life insurance policy at least. And like, so then you've built a legacy for your family and your home is paid off. So it really, what we've built with this personal pyramid of wealth, it speaks to all risk tolerances from a financial standpoint. And so like, there's no one size fits all with regards to finances. We've got people in all different kinds of risk profiles that are in our group. And like, that's what's most important to me, is being able to speak to these audiences. That's why it's so important to stay open-minded with this stuff though, and not shut it down. Like, are you coachable is something that I fucking hammer over everybody's head all the time. Like, because I believe that you miss so many opportunities to learn when you're closed off to ideas. And this particular thing will work for anyone of any socioeconomic standard, and it doesn't matter where you're at. So you can put this and implement it in your life with simplicity, no matter what your budget is, no matter what your risk tolerance is. There's strategies to use it that will enrich your life and your family's life. Even if it's simple as like some $10,000 expense that you have on a regular basis, like meaning on an annual basis, like if it's your property taxes, like let's work that in. Or if it's a family vacation that you spend $3,000 on once a year, like there's ways to adjust this to any sort of income level. And it's going to benefit you over time because it compounds very quickly.
Yeah, I think, I mean, people get very, I don't want to say short-sighted, because they only start focusing on one timeline. They're only thinking about the next 30 days, or they are thinking about the next year because there's a family event, kids going to college or something, or they're only thinking about retirement. I just got to get to this. I hear it from firefighters all the time. Oh, I just got to work for 20 years and then I can retire at 50. Yep. I'm like, okay, well, you're not like, so that's your plan, this is the only thing you're going to do for 20 years. You just have to hit that time clock, make this income, hit the 20-year mark, and then boom. And they forget that you can look at all three of these things at the same time. And so I love the system, the pyramid, the 7 levels of financial freedom that we have into play, because they all build upon each other. It covers the short term, the medium term, and the long term. My life insurance policies are my short-term savings, forced savings plan, and emergency fund. They are my midterm property tax, income tax as a business owner, midterm investments, right? I'm making a private loan into a storage unit deal. Money's going to come from there. And they are my long-term wealth opportunity fund and retirement income account. And I can just cycle that money as often as I need to for whatever's presented to me in front of my face. And I know that in the future, all of those accounts are going to come together and just provide for me whenever I need it, for my family, my lineage, the types of vacations I want to take, my kids and my grandkids and their grandkids, like on. That's why, again, we take such good care of ourselves, because we do plan on living to be over 100 years old, and not just the great grandpa that's in the corner and can't fucking eat or shit in his pants the whole time. We're going to be fucking walking. We're going to be walking the hills. We're going to be taking the family to Disney. We're going to be getting off the cruise ship. We're going to be doing all that shit. And so it matters, guys. And so, I don't really have anything else to say. This was kind of like a call to arms. Like, I think some people can listen to this podcast and be like, well, Jeff and Sean are so, they're so just up in the cloud, and easy for them to say, because they already have, the system in place. They already own some real estate, blah, 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 blah. But y'all, like, we got there because of basic personal finances. We just put a twist on the conformity of traditional personal financial knowledge, and we challenged the status quo. And we got non-status quo results from it. So I truly believe when I was a high school teacher, I noticed early on that every teacher had like this little quote at the end of their email signature, and it was different for each one. And so I just did a quick search on quotes, and I found one. And this is again 15 years ago. So and it still holds true to me today. And the quote was, "Observe the masses, do the opposite." And so the masses right now are struggling. The masses, the average of the United States, they're not doing well financially. They're not taking, calculated risks. They're just waiting. They've abdicated financial responsibility in their personal life, and at higher levels, they just think these other people are going to make the right choices, and it's going to trickle down and benefit them. And that's not how the system's working. So you guys have to feel empowered. You have to take control of the financial aspects of your life. And by leadership, Jeff doesn't necessarily mean business leadership. He just means leadership of yourself, of your family, of your kids, of the people in your local community. And it's one step at a time. You eat an elephant by taking one bite at a time. So yes, we have these plans for 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, but we break them down into 12-month action 12-month goals and 90-day action items, and we break that down into 2 weeks. What are we doing over the next 2 weeks? What are we doing over the next 7 days? What do I have to do today to get me a 0.5% farther ahead for what I want in the next X amount of timeline? So again, this was a call to arms. Y'all, we can teach personal finance. It's where it starts. The first thing we do when people come into Tactical Empire, when they work with me one-on-one, I'm like, get your financial house in order, upload it to this document, and let me see everything, because I cannot help you go in a direction until I see where point A is. I cannot tell you what to do to get to point B until I see where point A is. And that's why we say you can have financial freedom in 2 to 7 years, because some people's point A is farther ahead than other people's point A. So some people will get where they need to go in 2 years. Some people take 5, some people will take 7. Either way, the clock's ticking, the time will go by. We will get there 2, 5, 7 years from now. And I fully believe that we have the system to do it. Jeff, that's all I got to say.
You covered it, my man. You covered it. Everybody can slot in where they are, and the system can meet you where you are, and it's a beautiful thing. So I appreciate you, man. That was great knowledge.
Well, I appreciate you. It all started with a simple phone call from you years ago. So we're available. Jeff is still available for those phone calls that I made 5 years ago, and now I'm available for those phone calls. So y'all pick up the phone, call us. In today's terms, that means DM us, send us a message, Instagram, Facebook, follow the podcast, get in our free Facebook group, the Tactical Empire Community. That is absolutely free. Post questions, post podcast topics. We are here to provide value to you guys. Other than that, we'll catch you on the other side.